Thank you guys. Thanks everybody for being here. And Phil Sexton's here with me. Hey, Phil.
What up, Eric?
Hey, man. It's always good to see you. Yeah.
I was going to bring my Compass shirt and my EXP shirt and my Zillow shirt and ask which one should I wear, but I went neutral.
So, okay. With that said, this is a real, this is being presented as a very binary topic. Like, you have to pick a side. And what Phil and I both agree on, and we'll talk more about his credentials in a second, is that we think that's bogus. We think that somewhere in the middle is usually the right answer. And we think that, there's usually pros and cons of both sides. So what I want to start with is, I have a lot of friends at Compass. There's a lot of really good people there. And I know a lot of Zillowers and ex-Zillowers. Actually, Tara Leonetti, which is Mike Del Preti's partner with the Real Estate Hub, is an ex-Zillow person. I mean, she's amazing. And I respect everybody quite a bit. A few different Compass people reached out to me and said, who's going to represent Compass's position? And this morning, somebody emailed me and they said, hey, Eric, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. This agent said, look, I usually watch your podcast. I'm not going to tune into this podcast since I was disappointed to see that it doesn't provide balanced panel representation on the issue. As a co-host or sole guest of your podcast, EXP, which is aligned with Zillow's, skews the direction of the conversation. And I want to completely diffuse that because Phil and I know each other from the very first real estate hub ever. If you were to say to me that was the best real estate hub, I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't say that out loud, but I really loved it. Here's a picture of all of us down in this sort of basement of this historic building. Here's a pic of, Mike and Phil and me. This is from 18 months ago. And then, oh, wait, I didn't mean to include that one. There's a pic of Phil and Robert Refkin. So two things.
Do I have the same shirt on? I think I have the same shirt on. Look at what I did today.
So here's the thing, man. One, Phil doesn't drink anybody's Kool-Aid. And I'll let him tell you about his history in a minute. But he's with EXP now, runs a really big, really successful team. He's been with independent brokerages in the past. He thinks for himself, and he's not here to say any party line. Two, I think that a panel of one Compass guy and one Zillow guy arguing would be about the most boring thing in the world. And I would tune out immediately. I don't want to hear the party line on both sides and people argue about who's right. Because three, I don't think you have to pick a team here. I think that you can say, I agree with Compass, on one part. I agree with them I agree with them that maximum exposure is important. And I agree with Zillow that I agree with Compass that choice is important. I agree with Zillow that maximum exposure is important. And then I disagree with both of them, in some parts. What we're here to talk about is the perspective of the consumer. Like, what's best for the consumer and what's best for the industry. And generally speaking, when you approach it from the perspective of what's best for the consumer, you're going to find what's best for the industry as well. So all that said, right, sort of a defensive beginning to this, that we're not here to pitch any specific angle. Tell us, man. So Phil and I know each other from the hub. We were fast friends because we're both good friends with Russell Shaw, who's an amazing human being. Phil, tell them about what you've done. Tell them about your history, all that good stuff, and we can just jump right in.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Happy to be here and happy that Russ introduced us before we got to spend a couple days together in Boulder. So my history is that I am a second generation realtor. When I got into this business, I worked at a family brokerage here in the Phoenix, Scottsdale general area. Greater Phoenix Metro, I guess. We had about 750 to 1,000 agents at the time, local family-run business. And then in 2011, Realty One Group bought us. And I became the director of marketing for Realty One Group. Did that for a year. And the owner there asked me to move to Southern California to their new corporate office. And I said, I've been in the corporate world this whole time, my real estate history. I think it's time that I get out into the trenches. And so started working with agents. And Jeff Seabach, which you can see the name of the team that I'm currently working with, is the Seabach team in the background there. Jeff Seabach hired me for 20 hours a week to do some part-time web development. 3 days later, we turned it in. 3 days later, we moved it to 40 hours a week. And 3 months later, we turned it into a partnership. And so now Jeff and I have been running the Seabach team for 13 years. Our best year being 2021, where we sold 392 million. We have currently about 40 agents on the team. And it's funny because even though I'm at eXp Realty and I'm in the Zillow Flex program, I don't know that and comes with its own biases that I'm aware of. I think that my take on this is still pretty neutral. And so I'm excited to kind of get into it with you today, Eric.
Well, yeah. And to speak to that again and to compliment you, whenever you and I've talked, you're not a binary thinker. You don't say, I'm in EXP, therefore everything that EXP does is amazing for me. You're also a Zillow Flex team, and you're leveraging those leads. And we've talked a lot about how do you take those leads and then how do you leverage them even further and help your agents with SOI. So you're the kind of guy that looks at the big picture. And I remember, because I'm, you and I are really similar, but like EXP is not for me. And as I got to know you more, I finally asked you the question, like, why are you there? And we don't have to dig into the reasons at all, but you have a very logical reason for why you're there. It's not just like, because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid at all. So there you go. Like, thank you for being here. I'm super excited that we've known each other and gotten to know each other even better. I want to jump right in. And so what I did, I've gone back. There's like almost 700 people that have RSVP'd to this. Some people live, some people that plan to see the recording. But I was excited, and so I've gone back and forth on different outlines and whatnot. But when I looked at the RSVPs, there were a number of questions, and so we looked at what all the common questions were. Here are the two like burning questions, and I'm going to say both of them at once, Phil, and just answer these, and we can be done. Is Zillow playing hardball to support its main business, which is selling leads? That's question number one. Question number two is, what is Compass's real goal here? I think these are the most important questions. So I will pitch that first one to you. Is Zillow playing hardball to support its main business, which is selling leads?
Is Zillow playing hardball? Yes. Does the alignment of the consumer match up with the alignment of their business? Yes. The ironic part about it is that Compass's does too, right? And that's what's interesting to me, is that we have two companies right now that are arguing their position is what's best for the consumer. And both of those positions that are different happen to line up with their profitability. And so
explain. So please explain. Like, how does Zillow's position align with the consumer? I want to know more.
I think that Zillow's position is that they want to have full-blown transparency. They want to make sure that all the listings that are out there, there is a complete data set, if you will, so that we don't get too segmented like other countries around the world that have segmented real estate markets, and how much of a pain and inefficient marketplace those can be. Zillow's on the mindset of, if we all have the same united data set, then best decisions, best practices, best transparency can all be there. And that's a benefit to the consumer.
It's hard to argue that. It's hard to argue that a complete marketplace isn't a benefit to the consumer and also isn't a benefit to the industry as a whole. I tend to agree. The more complete the marketplace, the easier it is to do my job, the easier it is for consumers to find the home that they want to buy, and the easier it is for consumers to sell their home. So agreed. What does Compass say, and how are they aligned with the consumer as well?
Compass this one is an interesting one. I can't help it, but, read their addendum to listing agreement where they outline the 3-phase marketing strategy. And I think that because I don't have a Compass friend right here that I can ask the question to, I have to go with the information that I see published. And so they say, depending on where you're located, the program benefits include: 1, marketing your property without accumulating days on market and price drop history, which can devalue a property in the eyes of buyers. Yes. Let's just stop right there. I think, and they go through 5 of them, but let's stop right there. I think that this whole battle is one that affects different areas in the country differently. And I think that MLS rules tend to get in the way of whether this is true or not, this number one benefit. Because in our world, in Arizona regional multiple listing area, which is the greater Phoenix metro, Maricopa County, and some of Pinal County, I think there's roughly around 40,000 realtor members of it. And currently there's 27,000 homes that are available for sale. And in that system last month, we saw 7,000 closings. And so a pretty significant sized MLS, right? I don't know what number they are in the country, but their rules here, they have a coming soon section.
I think that's very forward thinking. And I think that serves the public very well. And it aligns incredibly well with Compass's position, right? Like, Compass would say, yes, this coming soon status that MLS has is good for the consumer. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. So why?
Well, why? What do you mean? Like, why would they say that? Or why is it good?
Why is it? I think that part of this conversation is, why is that good for the consumer? Why is it good for the consumer that we're holding the property off of the public portals? Because that's what our coming soon status does. And what's interesting, just to set the stage a little bit more, when I go out and I talk to groups of agents, I hear agents, I ask groups of agents, what's the difference between coming soon and active? in our MLS. Not everybody understands that one is syndicated to the public portals and one is not. One accumulates days on market and one does not. One tracks price history drops and one does not, like from a public standpoint, right? And so we get in our world, that number one benefit that Compass has on their listing addendum exists in our world without the brokerage needing to intervene.
So that's it, right? So the coming soon status, as you guys have implemented it, which by the way, shout out to Abor, we have a flex status, which we might as well call coming soon, that's rolling out in June. That's very similar, accessible to all agents. You can show the property. A price isn't required, does not accumulate days on market, very flexible. That's why they called it flex. So coming soon in MLS, flex listings in Austin, both of them satisfy the consumer need that Compass has set out, that Compass has said. Consumers want they want choice, is what they're saying. They want to be able to float aspirational pricing and see if they can get it. They don't want to be pigeonholed into you have to go straight on the market the way CCP says. Sorry, I said the CCP word. We won't say it again while we're talking. It also satisfies Zillow's desire to have a complete marketplace and to have a complete data set. Now, if I can be, devil's advocate, or if I can say your position in a slightly different way, they're both pro-consumer. Both of their positions are pro-consumer. I also think that both of their positions are anti-consumer. And the anti-consumer element of Compass is that there's not full transparency to the seller, that this is not going to be marketed to a wide variety of agents. Compass doesn't have a monopoly on great agents. If somebody wants to float aspirational pricing in the one, then you're only selling it to, you're only giving it to Compass agents. In Austin, that is presented to 7% of the agents in Austin. And I would be very shocked if somebody told every seller, this is only going to 7% of agents. Do you want to take an offer? The answer is probably not yes. Zillow, they don't want coming soon listings because they don't feed to Zillow. They can't monetize it. They say, oh, well, that's fine. It's a complete data set to the buyer and it's a complete data set to the seller, but we don't get it. Therefore, it doesn't count. So I think you're correct that both sides are pro-consumer. And I also think that I'm correct that both sides are anti-consumer. What do you say?
Yeah, come on. We don't have to agree on everything, right? But I guess we can agree on some things. I like to get to the root of it. So instead of trying not to be emotional about it, like what's the value? What's the actual value of going coming soon in the MLS and it not going to Zillow? Like
days on market.
But like, so it's more valuable to have a hidden, to have a listing not get more. Hold on. I'm sorry. So it's valuable to have a listing exposed to a subset of people if it doesn't accumulate days on market?
I agree. Yeah, I think so, because it's been in practice.
And that's what Compass is doing.
That's 100% it. You're saying, listen, so the most common use case for coming soons, in my experience, round numbers. You've got a property that you think is probably going to go for 550 on the MLS. It's a great listing. You're at a good time of the year. You don't necessarily need to get on the market immediately because seller needs don't require it. And so you say, you know what, let's float it out there for a week or two. And we're going to tell people it's in the high 500s. See how they react. Yeah. Now, if you put it on the market, if you put it on the MLS, you have to pick a price. So you have to pick 580, 590, 595, 599. But you also accumulate those days on market and you pick the price. And then if you do ultimately have to reduce price, you've lost a lot of momentum. And for whatever reason, wouldn't you agree that looks like damaged goods? If I list a property for 590 and then I drop price 2 weeks later to 550, what is the perception to you, a buyer's agent?
Ready to go. Let's write an offer.
But are you going to write as good of an offer on that listing as you would if it just hit the market?
Eric, love the debate, right? Great. Okay, cool. So what I'm hearing you say and what I'm seeing in the comments is that days on market is damaging, right? And and luckily we have these great big companies that are in the business of removing anything that's damaging from the client, like not choice or not transparent. Right? It's amazing we don't have anybody saying, well, we should also remove days on market because it's damaging. No, we do. Don't get me wrong. And I don't think that we should go that route. But what I think it does is that I think that it is, I think that the coming soon phase or the test marketing phase is kind of similar to when you're going to send out a blast email to a group of to somebody in your database. And before you send it to 10,000 people, can I send it to 200 first to see how my open rate works, to see how my click-through rate works, to see if people are engaged in that or not. And then depending on how that subset goes, then I'll have a more effective push that goes out to the whole thing. And I think that that's really the value of coming soon and or office exclusives. It's just in our area, I don't need office exclusives in order to accomplish that. I can go to the coming soon in the MLS, and that goes to all of the realtors regardless of brokerage. And our MLS allows you to show the property.
That's
right?
great.
And to your point, if I get 0 calls, if I get 0 showing requests, then I know that the price that we put in there might not be the best price that we do the whole blast to the whole world with. And so we can make that adjustment now. So I see the value in it. It's just in our area, I don't need my brokerage to get involved in order to test it. And I think that the brokerage test group is this big, where all the realtor test group is this big, and then the overall market is that big.
So here, okay, so I agree with pretty much everything you said. I would posit that like function and sort of like how you make the sausage of a coming soon and why it's valuable isn't super like meaningful in this conversation. I think we can summarize it all and say there is a use case for coming soons. There is a use case that sellers legitimately want in order to put a property on the market without fully exposing it, as Zillow says that they should do. So I think that it's fair to say that Zillow is stymieing choice. They're saying that consumers don't have a choice. They don't have this option to try out this strategy, which has been used for a long time. Would you agree with that?
I can see that.
Yeah. So
I mean, but they're still allowing coming soon. They don't view, if I go coming soon with my listing, that doesn't negate its ability to get marketed on Zillow in the future.
Yeah, it does. That's what their new rule is, man.
Yeah, sorry. I guess the email that I got that I was referencing, where Earl Samuelson clarifies the following listing types are not subject to the ban: coming soon listings entered into the MLS.
No. Here, I have it right here. So I'm going to share the screen. And like I think I told you, I rely on technology quite a bit. And this is from one of the LLMs. So what it says is, if a listing is publicly marketed in any way without being submitted to an MLS within 24 hours, it will be banned from Zillow for the life of the listing. And what it also says is that the delayed listings, which you're saying the coming soons, those are allowed provided they are submitted to an MLS within 1 day of public marketing and are available on the MLS and VOW feeds. So if you submit it to a coming soon feed in MLS, that feed right now does not feed to Zillow. Therefore, by these rules, those listings would not be available on Zillow at all. And that's why the sort of collateral damage here is that, Compass kicked sand in Zillow's face at the beach. Zillow reacted, and then sand got all over the local MLS partners. And it was kind of like Compass directly kicked sand in all their competitors' faces as well, but we'll call that collateral damage as well. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I understand that that's how that reads, but I'm excited to see what happens in 7 days on whether
I'm too. And that's why, by the way, that's why we're not hearing from any of the local MLSs, because they're waiting for clarification. This isn't like the way these rules are rolling out is not the same as, an act of Congress, right? Like nobody has pitched legislation that gets debated and amended and then passed. They've just pushed this stuff out there. And then we see emails and we can assume, and we're kind of guessing now, because they'll say one thing and then do another. But back to the issue at hand, one thing that's opaque to me is how accessible are these private exclusives from Compass? Because I've now heard from multiple people in Compass leadership and from multiple Compass agents that they're going to share these private exclusives with agents outside the office. Have you heard the same thing?
I don't think they're allowed to.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I think if we had a Compass person on here, I think what would be said is no, we'll share them with anybody. I was emailed that this morning. I was texted that by leadership. That no, we'll share them with everybody. So do you have a recent experience that maybe might be different than that?
I don't know. Could you queue up a phone call?
I don't know. Should I? Should I queue up a phone call?
I mean, of course. Look, Eric, you knew that this quote was coming. Having the list is more powerful than what's on the list.
I agree. I agree.
The list in itself is sexy. I want the list. And so when I go to compass.com as a real estate agent, I would like access to the list. I want to see if I have if my buyer that wants to spend up to $3 million and buy a house in Scottsdale, I want to show them everything that's possible.
That's an interesting criteria. $3 million in Scottsdale. If only we had some way to test and see how that would.
Hi, Phil.
This is Phil.
Hi, Phil. This is Rochelle. I'm a client success manager with Compass. I'm here to connect you with one of our private exclusive property agents. So these are unique properties that aren't available in public listing sites. Is that what you're interested in? Excellent. Your private exclusives provide a more discreet buying experience with access to properties before or without them ever hitting the open market. Are you specifically looking for something in a particular price range or with certain features?
I'm actually looking to see what inventory you have in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area.
Okay. Thank you
Am I
for
able
that.
to do it by by geography, or do I have to do it by price?
I would have to, I would have to take to a specialist who handles the exclusive inventory in the area. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, I'll place you on hold. Please stay on the line.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Phil, I've got Brittany on the phone. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
Great, Brittany. How are you?
Good. How can I help
Awesome.
you? Are you looking for property in Scottsdale?
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking to see what kind of inventory you got that is in private exclusives.
What is your budget around?
I actually have a client that's looking up to $3 million. And I'm
Okay.
just trying to assist them.
Okay. So you're a realtor. Are you in a different state?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
work
just
off a
looking
range.
for anything that's off market?
Yeah, you guys got private exclusives, and I was on the website looking to see if I could figure out which ones they were, and it prompted me to have a conversation, and here we are.
Okay.
Is there a way that I can look at your inventory for my client?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my broker. So I know Compass, we have our own off-market deals through Compass listing agents only. Only Compass agents can see it. So I don't know how that works. So I'd have to ask my broker. But what's your number? I can text you once I call her and let you know. I'm gonna text you, Brittany. Okay, cool. And then I'll call my broker right now and see what she says, and I'll let you know.
You're awesome. Do you? I assume that just inside of the Compass, can you tell me at least are there 10 are there 20?
I would probably say there's probably maybe 50 to 75. Most of them are Paradise Valley and Scottsdale.
Are any of them your listing?
No, none of them are mine.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I guess I'm also
Up to $3
curious if I
million.
could partner with can I partner with you if I couldn't get in myself, where you and I put a deal together that I could get access, or how would that work?
Yeah, I can ask my broker for sure. I've never had anyone ask that. So
I appreciate you taking my call. Let me know what they say.
you said up to $3 million Scottsdale, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll call her right now and I'll let you know.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Phil and I were prepping for this call yesterday, and I was recording the call in Texas. Phil's in Arizona, single consent. And we were already recording it for notes. And Phil was dinking around on the Compass website. And he was like, hey, I wonder if I could see these. And so he filled out the form. Phil filled out the form. And and they called him. And Phil said, hey, man, Compass is calling right now. Should I answer? I was like, yeah, of course. Let's see how it goes. And so we got connected to Brittany. And she's super nice. They had 50 to 75 listings, I think. And you asked her hey, could I even partner with you guys to sell the property? And then she texted you 10 minutes later, right? And what'd she have to say?
Am I allowed to use the acronym?
I don't think so. I don't want to talk about that, but
Yeah,
that's
okay.
whatever you want to do.
She said no. She said no.
She said no.
Yeah.
No, you can't see the listings and not going to partner with you to help your client, basically.
She said hi. Yeah. She said hi. So yeah, we can't share with other brokerages, because if we did, they would have to go on the MLS, unfortunately. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah. So the agent that emailed me this morning, super nice woman, said the same. She said, oh, no. Anybody can get to him. I said, cool. Show me the listings in Austin. Love to see them. Legitimately, any Compass agent, we would like to know what listings you have in private exclusive, because we have buyers. We got 112 amazing agents, and they all have buyers, and they all could potentially bring you guys a buyer. Send them over, please. Let me know how we can get them in the future. If so, if these become available and we can cooperate like we always have in the past, I have no problem with Compass's position at that point in time. I'm skeptical that happens. Phil, tell me what you think these listings actually are. Tell me what you think. You said a second ago that they're sexy and you want to find the list. Tell me what you think the intention of this hidden inventory really is.
Lead gen. I want to dangle a carrot that causes people to fill out a form, right? I mean, isn't that the goal?
It's for sure. I mean, it's the same, the age old, old school real estate websites where, you got a registration form and the details are behind it and people fill it out because they want to get to the details. Yeah.
I was just a lead, right? And I would imagine that tree is going to evolve where they have agents and they have consumers in that phone tree somewhere. And when it goes to the agents, it turns into a recruiting lead. And when it goes to consumers, it turns into a buyer-seller lead. That's my assumption.
Compass is a really smart company. Something we talked about at the hub a couple of weeks ago. about this topic is just how well they execute. And they executed incredibly well on becoming profitable 2 years ago. They shaved $400 million a year off of their expenses. That was their entire focus. How do we become profitable? And they did it. It was insane that they were able to do that. Their entire focus for the past 6 months has been office exclusives. That's it. They're executing it incredibly well. It's a recruiting tool and it's a lead gen tool. You and I probably have different opinions about the priority of each. I personally think that it is a recruiting tool first, and then maybe a lead gen tool second, maybe. How they handled that call is one reason why I think that. But FOMO is a super, super, super powerful emotion. And if you're frustrated in your business, if you're thinking about potentially, going somewhere else, if you go, wow, man, they have some inventory that I can't get to unless I go over there, that's a pretty compelling reason to contact.
Yeah, I agree. I think that
Nicole says here that agent wasn't trained well. Another broker can absolutely buy a house off mark. That's not true. This agent called her broker and then texted Phil and said, sorry, can't do it. That's what happened. This is yesterday.
And I wonder how many variations of MLS rules and MLS adherement to, if that's even a word, to the NAR rules there is. Like, even before this whole Compass Zillow thing came out, Eric, you and I were talking about how properties in Austin tend to be marketed without abiding by the clear cooperation policy.
There's not strict enforcement of it here, which is, I think it's a great thing. Like the agents here just don't really turn each other in. Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because it seems like some of the people's comments lean towards, it's still possible. I'm sure it's still possible, but is it also in violation of somebody's rules that nobody's enforcing? I mean,
sure, but here's the thing, Phil, and here's what I'd argue to that is that the comments are getting blown up right now saying no, we cooperate. That's what's said in the public. I will say, Compass agents, yeah, absolutely. You guys want to do a great job for your clients, no question about it. The framework that has been built for this does not cooperate. It's not cooperative. I really wanted to get a hold of the Austin list before this podcast. I emailed a number of people. I went on the Compass website and put an inquiry in, said I'd like to see what the inventory looks like. It's not here. Now, somebody could send it to me, but it's just not an easy way to get. And this person said, sorry, this is just for Compass agents. And this list is only valuable to Compass if it's exclusive. If the list isn't exclusive, it's not valuable to Compass anymore. And the reason why that's problematic is because that goal misaligns with the sellers. The sellers want their house sold. The Compass framework wants to keep them in-house to recruit more agents. That's the problem.
I want to comment on Sue's comment, who said, go to compass.com. Everyone can see the private exclusives. Sue, that's what I did yesterday in Phoenix. And there's 2 levels of listings, I think, that are quote unquote coming soon on compass.com. One of the levels is Compass coming soon, which is viewable. We could see those 27 listings in the Phoenix area that were Compass coming soons. What's not viewable, which is why I had to fill out the form and talk to a call center rep before getting transferred to an agent, is the office exclusives or the private exclusives. Those, and when I talked to Brittany and she said that there was 50 to 75 of those, my guess is that 50 is 23 plus the 27 coming soons that you can see publicly. And so when I went to the 27 that you can see publicly and I looked them up in the MLS, and they're coming soon on Compass, and they're also coming soon on the MLS. So they're abiding by the local MLS rules. And maybe this is turning into an argument because my MLS rules and how our MLS rules and manages violations is different than yours. But in our
I don't want to get into the weeds on all the rules because that's where this goes.
Yeah.
And you go to the rules and you're like, oh, because this, because that. Look, Refkin already has said he doesn't care about the rules. I admired that. He said oh no, we're going to have open houses before we're on the market. Who cares about CCP? Great. I think that's a great idea. Do what's best for the consumer. Oftentimes an open house prior to going on the market is best for the consumer. But that tells me that, you can't hide behind the rules here and then, flout the rules over here. Now, everybody in the comments who's saying, oh, you can just go on the website and find them, do it. Please try.
Prove me the ones in Phoenix.
Prove me wrong. Show me, send me a video, show me how to do it. I'd love to be wrong. I legitimately would love to just get this inventory so that we don't worry about it anymore, because we do have anxiety from agents all over that go, well, how am I supposed to deal with this hidden inventory? One more screen share I'll show really quickly. Actually, 2 more that I'll show really quickly. And this is how we were going to kick it off, actually, was with this right here. This mocked up billboard that came from Compass. See 25% of homes for sale 1 week before any other site. That's what this is all about. It's all about hidden inventory that you can attract buyers with. And if you can attract buyers with the hidden inventory, if I'm an agent, man, I should really probably consider being at this brokerage that allows me to attract buyers in that way. That's what this is all about. Now, here's the concern. Somebody messaged me this. A Compass agent with $1 million listing shared it on social, but declined all showings to non-Compass agents. Then on day 0, it was under contract. We ended up putting in a backup that was $50,000 higher than the contract they took with a full appraisal waiver. And that's the concern. And that's where Compass can be both pro-consumer and anti-consumer, is that you have to also include an element of transparency and honesty whenever you're pushing an idea like this out there. What do you say?
Sorry, I was thinking about just the whole idea of walled off inventory gardens, and if that catches on, that is a bad thing. And
I agree.
I think that regardless of whether they're good at lead gen or not, the analogy of where we used to be able to have a cable subscription and we could see all the shows, and now we got to have a Paramount Plus account and a Hulu account and a Netflix account and a whatever Disney Plus account in order to see the same shows that we used to be able to see on one. I think that it's a pain in the butt now. And I liked it the way that it was. And I kind of see real estate in that world right now, where it's nice when we can go to one place and see all the things. And if we've got these big brokerages, because we saw Corcoran create private, right? We see the copycat models of this Compass. And I think that turns into just a pain in the butt. For not just for agents, but for consumers as well.
No. So you want liquidity in the market. There's a handful of guys from South America. One guy in particular from Brazil, who's Victor. He's an amazing guy, and he started up a company, did really well with it, and he knows the landscape in South America really well. Obviously, they don't have an MLS, and he's actually moved to the United States for his next startup because the MLS is so transparent, because it's so easy to see historical data. It's so easy to see what's on the marketplace. It's good for the consumer. He's moving here in order to start building properties, start doing infill projects. And he looks at that and goes, I don't want to do that in Brazil. He literally said, it's too risky. You're not sure if you're getting the right price. You're not sure if you're getting the best house. And he moved to Florida. And he said, no, it's very easy for me to understand if I'm paying fair market value. It's very easy for me to understand that I'm seeing all of the properties. It's a step in the wrong direction to make everything fragmented. I don't want to have to go to Compass, EXP, Corcoran, Douglas Elliman, Bramlett Partners, or whatever other indie brokerages in your market to get a complete data set. That's not the direction that we want to go. But there are strong use cases to list a property off market before it hits MLS. Is that true?
Yeah.
So where are we? Like, what do we do?
That's what we do. That's why I think that the way that I think you and I have different opinions on what Zillow is going to allow to be marketed and what's going to be banned. I still believe that coming soons are not going to be banned, even though the rules are written and what you showed says that they are.
That's because you drink the Kool-Aid, Phil. That's why, man.
Yeah. And it's also because I was on the Zoom with Earl Samuelson when they said coming soons aren't included. And I know that the written word can be different, but like you said in our prep call, the gray area is real, and our interpretation of what this means is real. And the only thing that becomes a reality is going to happen on May 1st.
Okay, so here's
May 2nd, because May 1st will still be within the 24-hour window. So May 2nd will be the day.
Okay. What I would say to that is I believe him whenever he says coming soons are allowed as well. It says it right in the rules. Coming soons are allowed. The question is, as coming soons exist in RMLS right now, where they don't go to the VOW feed for public display, are those excluded? Are those allowed? Are those allowed under your rules? That's the question to ask. And that's what their press release says no. And I'd like to hear from him, will you allow these even though they're going to be excluded from VOW? Now, I care deeply because it's personal. Austin, with the flex listings, which I'm a huge supporter of, act very, very similar to RMLS. And the ABOR has worked very hard to put these out. And now they're very concerned that they're not going to be able to because of these rules, or that they're going to butt heads with Zillow because of these rules. Let's pretend for a second that they don't allow them. Let's pretend for a second that they do come down with a hammer and enforce, very hard. If somebody puts a property, like floats, doesn't put it in the MLS, but floats it across market, floats it to friends a week before it goes on the MLS and says, hey, here's a coming soon. It's going to be in the high 500s. Let me know if you've got a buyer, if you want to show it. It'll be in the MLS a week from now. If Zillow says, no, that can't be on our website, is that pro-consumer?
Yeah. Would you call that is that a false positive, or is that a positive?
It's a positive. Is it anti-consumer or is it pro-consumer?
Yeah. Good question. I think that, great question.
Do you want me to answer?
Does war bring peace? Is that what you're saying? Right? Like that guy gets hurt, right? That guy gets hurt. But the overall battle, the overall war is helping everybody remain transparent. And there's some fallen soldiers that happen in that.
Well, we
Is that pro-consumer?
We can go eat a gummy sometime and talk about overall battle and casualty or whatever. Like,
Is
sure,
that legal there? Is that legal
no,
there?
it's bizarre. We can have another discussion about that. Like, it's really weird. But yeah. So I would say that it's anti-consumer. I would say that if that consumer wants to use that strategy and they're fully informed of the risk and reward, that consumer should be able to make that informed decision. I think it's anti-consumer if you promote it to them and tell them, oh, you're getting maximum exposure and it's the best thing since sliced bread or whatnot. And that's another part of the discussion. But I think that by Zillow saying we make the rules, one, that's super scary. And I want to talk about that. But I think if Zillow, what's that?
They make their rules. They're not saying we make the rules.
Yes and no. Yes and no. They get their data from the VOW feed and the IDX feed, and they're a broker. So they behave a lot more like a brokerage than most people even acknowledge. They get a big part of their revenue from direct commission, or well, it's referrals, but they're getting paid on a commission basis. They're getting paid on a contingent basis as a referral partner. And so they're earning commission, and they receive all of their data from the VOW feed. So they can make their rules, but they also have to play by the rules that are set for the VOW and the IDX feeds. So they have rules they have to follow. I mean, I hate digging into the rules too much, but this is another one that I've like researched the heck out of. And both the VOW and the IDX feed rules disallow subjective display of listings. Subjective display of listings means I don't like you, so I'm not going to show your listings on my website. If you take the VOW feed, you have to display the entire VOW feed. You can only sort by objective criteria. Objective criteria are things like price, location, size, stuff like that. Objective. And no, you can do days on market. Actually, you can't say I don't like Phil's team, so we're not going to show any of Phil's team's listings. Or I don't like the way that Phil's agent Ned marketed this single listing, therefore it's not on it any. That's a rule, and now it's being debated right now. And you're gonna the comments are probably going to blow up and tell me I'm wrong. And you know what? I'm wrong and I'm right, because there are interpretations of rules, and that's what the lawyers are talking about. But from a guy who trusts technology probably more than I should, I've run this past my attorney, who's passed the bar multiple times, which is ChatGPT and Grok, and they all come up with they all come up with the same answer, and that's not an objective criteria. Under what stretch of the imagination can how you marketed this home previously, and I don't like it, how could that be objective? That's just not an objective criteria.
So you're calling BS on the whole thing.
Can I say bullshit here? It's my pod. I won't cuss again, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's BS. I mean, I think that what you're going to see, there's 550 MLSs in the United States. Most people in general don't like confrontation. They don't want to go fight with anybody. Nevertheless, the 50 million pound gorilla Zillow. So a lot of them are going to say, oh, that's your interpretation, Zillow. Great, do it. You're going to have some of them that are going to say, no, we disagree. No, these are the rules. You're a broker in the market. If you want to receive our feed, then you have to play by the rules. Phil, you told me an interesting detail. You said that EXP is now sending Zillow their feed directly, bypassing MLS. Is that correct?
I mean, I think that's an option. I don't know. I'd have to confirm that. But I would imagine if your play is transparency and there's anything that you can do to make sure that your listings remain as transparent as possible, you would take those options, whatever those options may be. If it's direct feeds with the largest portals in the country, like we've all seen of the top 8 websites that are visited with the Zillow bar charts down to the homes.com bar charts. Like I'm sure that those companies would take data directly from the brokerages that have them in the event that the MLSs got squirrely about the rules.
Well, okay. Yes.
Which is where they started, right?
What's that?
Which is where they started. I mean, is
where they started, because they didn't start out as a brokerage and they didn't start out getting a direct VOW feed. I mean, the details on all that, like I know a lot about this stuff because I used to fight tooth and nail to try to convince the board never to give them the feed because I saw them as a competitor back in 2007. But they used to go to big brokerages and say, hey, give us your feed directly. We'll display it as a lot of free exposure. And that's how they got most of their listings. So it's certainly a step backwards for them if they do it. The other thing that they'll do is they'll go to EXP and they'll say, yes, we want your feed directly. By the way, here are the rules that will you play by them. And my gut, and I don't know the details of EXP at all, but my gut is that if they gave them that feed, they probably made some sort of commitment that they're going to display the listings in the manner that Zillow is okay with.
Yeah. It's funny to hear you talk about a step backwards in that.
Yeah. Because the whole thing feels like a big step backwards. Yeah.
This whole conversation about walled off gardens to me is a step backwards.
It's like we're going back to gasoline cars. It's like we're going back to freaking flip phones. I mean, that's really it. What are you laughing at?
I was just trying to think of other going back tos that would be funny.
Well, good one would be Nintendo 64. That, I mean, I'm all about that. Like GoldenEye, are you kidding me? Come on, let's go back to that.
Yeah. Do you guys have an internal list of properties that your brokerage knows about that isn't shared publicly?
Well, we will share it publicly. I mean, we actually have a link that we have a button on it that says public link, that it's really out of efficiency or laziness, however you want to look at it. But the other day somebody texted me and said, "Hey man, do you guys have is a broker from an agent from another office who, I like all agents, but I really like this guy." And he's like, "Do you have a coming soon in this area?" And I was out in the field and I said, "Hey Kirk, I'm not sure. Here's the link to all of them. Here you go." We have 133 right now. And yeah. And those are at varying stages of pre-market. And we didn't get to it, Phil, but like what you and I talked about yesterday is that this list of private exclusives, man, it smells exactly like our coming soons that have existed forever. And my gut is that it's just a mark, like they're taking something that's already being done, which is you take a listing in and you prepare it for market for 2 to 6 weeks. And they're saying, "Hey, go ahead and enter it into the system. We're going to call it a private exclusive. And then we can do some deals together and we can get some buyers out of the deal." That's what this really smells like. And that's kind of what I think it is. You guys, I mean, you have pre-market stuff that your team knows about, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the reality of this business, right? Whenever you're a real estate agent and you go to talk to a seller that is selling their house, you now have intel that's not out there publicly. And what you do and what are you allowed to do with that intel and what do you do with that intel is something that all real estate agents get to deal with.
How have you dealt with it in the past? Like if you're like, "Man, I've got a really great buyer, it's in whatever, Scottsdale in some neighborhood." I mean, there's no way that only agents on your team or only agents in EXP are going to have the inventory in that area. Like, what do? You got to beat the bushes and find some more inventory. What do you do?
I mean, like it's a known strategy to call top listing agents in an area if you're looking for off-market properties. That is a known, publicly discussed strategy for real estate agents looking for more options for their clients.
One thing but one of the things that worries me about this private exclusive push, because again, I want choice for the consumer. I see why people want to do coming soon. I see why you want to be able to tell people about your coming soons. Feedback's important, but we have seen more in the past month when you reach out to some, not all at all, but some Compass agents won't tell you about their listings now. And I think that is detrimental to the industry as a whole. And I know that it's detrimental to their seller because they just missed out on a very slim likelihood of a sale. But more importantly, they missed out on feedback. "Oh, this is what's going on. I can send you the pictures. Here's what the price is probably going to be." Now, a good agent's going to be able to give them some feedback, either explicitly or passively. Like, "Oh, cool. Like, hey, this, that, whatever." But if you're limiting that to, in Austin, Compass makes up 7% of the agents in Austin, it's just not going to be in your seller's best interest if you do it. And I think that's what's problematic.
Did you see the EXP seller advisory?
I did. Yeah, I think it's a good document. I think
it's EXP. That's my plug, right? EXPtoolkit.com/sellers. Like the best thing about EXP is that they just put it out for everybody to use and they don't copyright it. So what that seller advisory says is if you accept an offer, if you sell your house prior to getting it exposed to the entirety of the market, know that these are your risks: fewer offers, lower price, etc. Right? And getting that signed, I think it's funny because when I saw that document first come out, and for full transparency, I think I influenced 4 words on that document. So I did assist in their creation of it, but very minor. When I saw it, I immediately thought, man, are there sellers that we've helped source investor offers for, that we've helped set a non-traditional way in the past where I didn't, even though I've had these conversations, I don't know that I had an official disclosure for them. You know what I mean? And so even when I saw that come out, regardless of what happens between the Zillow Compass debate, I like that form for in the event that there is a off-market deal that happens, to put it, because what's the phrase of the year? Do you know the phrase of the year? The real estate phrase of the year?
It's the only other one we're not allowed to say today. I'm going to invoke Hitler before we invoke the C word.
All right. I won't talk about those schoolroom suings of lots of people.
Lots of people combined. Some sort of action maybe that might be a whole class might take together into it. Yeah, I don't know.
Don't say it.
It could happen. It totally could. But I think it's a scare tactic, but it could certainly happen. Yeah.
I think that it's a wonderful scare tactic that is very relevant right now because we just went through a class action. And so that's why we're hearing everybody say those words. But it would be, I do think that it helps CYA, myself, my team, to have a client that is going to accept an offer on a property prior to going to the wonderful world of the public, if you will. to have their signature on a doc that says you are aware that this means that.
I agree. And what I told you, I sort of poo-pooed it yesterday because I'm like, I don't like paperwork. I don't like paper, period, by the way. I said, no, man, I always email everybody or call them to make sure it's in an email. And I've sold plenty of stuff off market. And the script I always say, look, guys, it looks like a good deal. We don't know. If we don't go on the market, we're not sure. If you're going to feel really good about this and you're not going to wake up feeling like you have some regret that maybe you missed out on a really good deal, then you should take this. If you really think you might get a better deal on the open market, then let's talk more. And maybe we should go on the open market. Let's talk about the pros and cons. You have to disclose to sellers that they're getting limited exposure whenever they take a pre-market listing. Most of the time you float
a pre-market offer.
Sorry. Most of the time you have floated it at a higher price. And most of the time, because it's been floated to kind of like a limited pool of buyer agents, you're dealing with a more competent agent, which makes the deal stickier. There's less likelihood that it's going to blow up. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to take pre-market stuff, but you certainly want to make sure that the seller understands that there very well could be a buyer out there that's willing to pay more for the house, and they are giving up that opportunity by taking that offer.
Yeah.
I will say a couple more things, like the feed over here, which it's unsurprising. It's been kind of blowing up, and I don't want anybody to think that this is an indictment of Compass agents or this is an indictment of people who use Zillow Flex or anything like that. There are so many amazing agents all across the United States, across all companies, who really care deeply about their clients. And you guys are not setting policies for Compass or for Zillow. You guys are looking out for your client's best interest. And I get it that it can be pretty, you come from a place where you feel like you're attacked if a company that you're with is doing something that upsets other people. I totally understand that. What I would challenge everybody, if you're with Compass, if you're with EXP or you're a Zillow agent or whatever it is, or if you're somebody who's like me, not aligned with either party, that I would challenge you to look at this as like not a binary issue, that there's nuance here, that people can be right and wrong about certain things on both sides. That's what I would challenge everybody in the comments to really, really think about.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the threads that you have said every time we've talked about doing this podcast, Eric, is that this is not pick a side. I think that it's being portrayed out there though as pick a side. And I think that when you get to pick the side of the consumer, you can see that both sides of this argument have pro-consumer-esque things about them and anti-consumer things about them. And that's why if your side is pro-consumer, which level of pro-consumer are you more interested in? Their ability to choose or their ability, I don't know.
Well, what I would say to this is that if you have picked a side and you're like, you're convinced that your side is pro-consumer, look at everything your side represents and just challenge it. Challenge yourself. Like, is any part of my position, could it be construed as anti-consumer? Listen to the other side. If you really listen to the other side and hear like maybe some criticisms of your side, you might pick out some points that maybe are not 100% right. That's what I would challenge everybody to do.
Yeah. I do really like as big of a data set, as a complete data set as possible when it comes to comps and when it comes to homes for sale, sold homes, etc. I think that single complete data set is the side that I would choose, which obviously aligns me with the companies that I work with. But
I don't know. I would say it aligns you with RMLS. I would say that it aligns you with the coming soon status. So we did work with ABOR a bit on the flex listings. We gave our opinion and said, like, look, this is where we think it's going to be good. And when we were talking about it, we said, look, right now the data set isn't complete. We're guessing that about 30% of properties in Austin trade off market, where it's an educated guess, but that's what we're guessing. We're saying, how can we get that higher? Well, if you incentivize people to list on the MLS rather than try to come down with a hard rule that says they have to, if you're able to do it with a carrot, not the stick, it's going to be a lot better received. So I'm a massive proponent of flex listings. Massive. I was coming up with some goofy marketing ideas, like, make a pledge if you're a broker that if something's truly off market to still submit it and report the sale. I think that does a good thing for everybody if everybody commits to doing that. I don't think that opacity helps the consumer or the industry in any way. But Phil, I would challenge you, man. Like, you sound like you're in the middle. I don't know that you've like picked the EXP/Zillow side.
But I want, here's the other part about it is I'm biased to where I live, and I got public tax records that have excellent information, including price here. You don't. So for me, even if the sale happens off market, like all the open door, Phoenix is the hotbed of innovation. So all these companies like to come here to disrupt stuff like Open Door, OfferPad, all of those that started here. All of those off MLS sales that took place were still comps that I could use because I have that public record data here. But if that happens in your town, you don't have that data set. So I think you would be more interested in a complete data set from that perspective than me, because I still have the public tax records to fall back on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but we do fine. I mean, the only problem, like, we'd have an issue if it went the other direction. I just don't see it really going the other direction unless this thing really takes hold. I don't know. We're back talking about sides, and we're back talking about, what's in everybody's.
I like Nicole's comment. I've absolutely had sellers choose lower priced offers for one reason or another: non-investor, better closing, more reputable lender, leasebacks, etc. No question.
That's the reason why. That's why it's a nuance. Yeah.
I don't think that we're here saying that the only value of going on the MLS is to get a higher offer. I think that better offers doesn't only mean price.
Here's an interesting discussion we had yesterday. Okay, I'm an agent and I'm with Compass, and I personally am, one of my highest core values that I have as a person is honesty and transparency. So I'm pitching to a seller in Austin where we have 7% of the agent count, right? And so I say, hey, seller, we're going to only market this for the first 2 weeks to 7% of the agents in Austin. 7%. They're really good agents. These guys are really good agents. The 7% are. An offer comes in, the comps have said 550, 560. An offer comes in at 565. Seller knows it's only been exposed to 7% of the agents in Austin. Is the seller cool with that? Do they say this is enough exposure? I feel good. What do you say, Phil?
Yeah. Solid scenario. I would have to go back to say, what's the conversation that we had with the client in the house? And are we all believing that the price of the property ranges from this to this? And we just got this offer from a perfect buyer that's above what we even dreamed about at the listing appointment, that it was going to happen with the terms that are even more favorable than we want. Like, unfortunately, there's too many nuances in your scenario to say A or B.
Fair. Totally fair. I think that's fair.
That's happened to us where we've had those conversations with people that, like, if it sells for this, that's the perfect buyer scenario. We've all experienced the perfect buyer scenario, right? Where we put that house up and we're like, God, I don't know if this one is going to sell. What? Overpriced day one? This lady's been waiting for this street to come on the market for how long? Because her mom grew up down there and she just needed that house and didn't care and wanted to make sure she locked it in. Like, we've all had that if you've been in the business for an amount of time. And so in the event that comes across during that coming soon phase, it's hard to tell your person that you shouldn't take it, right?
I agree. I'm not sure, though, that if I'm a seller and somebody pitches to me that we're going to have a period where we only market it to 7% of the agents in a market, that I'm going to be real excited about that. Are you excited about that limited exposure?
No, but I heard a good argument for that. This is like the most exciting time for your listing is when it gets exposed to new people, right? Yeah. So we're gonna have that exciting time happen multiple times when you work with me. The first is going to be to this 7%. The second is going to be to these 50%. The third is going to be to the public. And so we create these new, very exciting flashes as we are trying to build buyer demand for that property. And I think that that's Compass's argument.
Okay. It's fair. I mean, I don't agree that most sellers are going to be very excited about that prospect. I just think that most sellers are probably going to want a little bit more exposure than that. And again, unless they get this amazing offer that, that they're not going to find elsewhere, we'll agree that's an edge case. Yeah. Another question for you. Let's say that I'm right, and I could certainly be wrong, about the Zillow provision that the RMLS coming soons are not compliant. And they go to RMLS and say, you guys have to add these for public display to the VOW feed. You have to. Is that a dangerous precedent if RMLS complies?
I will be very bummed if the coming soon inside of the MLS that's shared with all of the agents across the valley and not just used as a carrot dangle exclusivity for just our brokerage turns into being shunned off of Zillow. I will be very bummed on that. I don't know that is what they're after. I think that they're after ultimately collaboration and transparency. And yeah.
Call me a cynic. I think they're after the maximum number of listings they can display on their website because they're in the business of selling leads. That's what they are. I mean, if you think about what's their duty, it's to their shareholders. Every additional listing they get to the website it's more leads, right? Every listing that is not displayed on the website means less traffic, less leads. So I hope you're right. I hope that their intentions are altruistic and pure, and they're really out here to foster collaboration, and they allow us to do this. But back to the question, if they tell RMLS, you have to allow these to be displayed on Zillow, otherwise it has to go away, and RMLS either kills coming soon or says, fine, Zillow can now display coming soons and capitulates, is that a dangerous precedent? Zillow making the rules. Is that a dangerous precedent that Zillow tells the MLS how things have to be?
I think the way that you framed it, that is an easy yes. But I think that I have to play inside of a set of rules now. And the good news is everybody that's in this area gets to play by the same set of rules. And so those rules will change. Those rules will continue to change. Those rules will continue to be evolved, whether it's from a huge portal that has influence or it's from class action, money grubbing attorneys. Rules will continue to evolve. And it's up to us to figure out how we are going to leverage business inside of that set of rules.
But who should make the rules?
Coming soon means that the ability to market it on Zillow goes away. Then that's going to be another conversation that I get to have with our clients. And I would tell you, our business will evolve because of that.
That's okay. I get it, and I agree with you. And we're gonna, you can either say that like we survive, like nature finds a way, the way Jeff Goldblum said it in Jurassic Park, or agents are cockroaches, the way that Michael Preddy said it in one of his presentations, because we can live through a nuclear blast. Both are true statements. But my question remains: if we're no longer making the rules and Zillow is making the rules, is that scary?
Yeah, dude, I don't think that Zillow is making the rules.
But if they do, if I'm right in my scenario.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I was digging for, I guess.
I know that's.
I was trying to get a discussion going, but you freaking stonewalled me, man. Come on. Come on.
I will say, and maybe it's because that's my bias that I can't get out of, right? That's the bias that I'm stuck within, and I'm sorry that I don't.
It's fine. But what I love about you is you acknowledge your biases, and I'll acknowledge my biases. Like, I don't want to have to deal with these stupid freaking, disjointed listing places. I want to be able to get listings easily. I don't want to have to tell a buyer like, okay, yeah, let me find the private exclusives for you. It's going to be a pain in the ass. Got to email some people. We'll ultimately get them. By the way, I asked for all of them in the comments, and we have like 4 or 5 Compass agents telling me why they can't do that. Great, guys. Like, I can't get the listings. Okay, thank you. We can't get the listings. It's established, right? So they're walled off, which could then cause other large brokerages to also wall theirs off. And it sets us all back. And that sucks. I don't want that to happen. It's not good for the industry. It's not good for the consumer. Let's cooperate. The more that we cooperate, the more that we make these things readily and easily available, the faster our sellers sell, the more easily our buyers buy, and the more easily we collect commissions. Do you guys want that? I do, right? And then we get data into the MLS whenever we can, and we get to make informed decisions that we pass along to our clients. I just think that transparent data and complete data set is really, really good. But yeah, consumers should be able to choose. They're both right. They're both wrong. That's my take.
Boom.
Boom.
How do you want to wrap it up? Land it. Land it.
How do you want to wrap it up?
Like, are we going to come back in a week? I'd like to, what happens on May 2nd? I think that it gets real, right?
Okay.
I think that there's going to be a lot more clarity with exactly what happens after May 2nd.
I think that's great. And I will say this. I know there's a lot of people that might think this is combative. It's not intended to be. I'm here to...
yes, it is, Eric.
I want everybody to get along. I want everybody to cooperate because I want to do what's best for the consumer first. And when you do what's best for the consumer, you always end up doing what's best for your business. Making it easy to get to listings is what's best. Allowing consumers to have informed decisions is what's best. That's all I want here. So yeah, Phil, let's do this again after May 2nd, maybe like a couple of days after, so the dust can settle a little bit and we can see what happened. But I'd love to get questions. I'd love to get thoughts. Please don't send me hate mail. I'll just delete it or do something with it. Please don't argue about whether or not we can get the listings. If somebody emails them to me, that's phenomenal. If you promise to do that every day to me, that's great. It's even better. And now I believe that I'll always have the listings. Unless somebody can show me how I can consistently always get those listings, I'm really not interested. And Phil and I just talked about the rules, and argue is a strong word, but we debated them more than I think is even healthy, because we're going to see, like you said, on May 2nd, how these rules all shake out. So please reach out to us. I'll make sure that everybody also gets Phil's email so that he can get as much hate mail as I do. And then we can go from there. But I'd love to start a conversation with everybody, really and truly. So thank you guys for sticking with us through this